sex is so many more things than just penetration. All the different ways you can use your fingers, your tongue, your body, and you're just being curious and you're just tuning in like, oh, how does this feel? I wish I could just be gay, you know? The spiritual nudity of it all. Hello, my dear internet friends. Thank you so much for being here and joining me today. So I feel a little nervous, a little bit shy today because this whole video started with me wanting to film about making love to a woman, female sexual pleasure, how to navigate the vulva, and I started to feel a lot of imposter syndrome about my own sexuality, even though it's something that exists inside of me. I started to feel like, why should I be the one to speak on this? I don't really know what I'm doing. Every single time I've made a girl come, I'm internally celebrating and just like in shock and awe still. And it feels like some uncharted territory to speak on queer sex, even though I've been having it for just as long as I've been having sex with men. And it just made me want to make a space for this conversation to happen because I feel like there are a lot of queer folks who are navigating their sexuality. And if anything, I would love for this video just to be an affirmation, a love letter to you that wherever you are in your self-discovery, it is okay. And I just wanted to share a little bit of my journey, and I will get to the sex tips at the end. So I'll have little titles in the timeline here. So I'm queer. Initially, when I started hooking up with girls, I identified as pansexual because I was like, oh, if I like your personality, we'll hit it off and I could be into anyone who has really good energy. But then I started to find myself being attracted to and wanting to sleep with girls who I didn't even know, who maybe weren't even that nice to me, but I was just like, you're so hot. And after my freshman year of high school, I moved to a new high school where there was a much bigger queer community, and pretty much every girl who had queer or lesbian in her Instagram bio, which was a total of like 3, I hooked up with them because it was so exciting to know that it was a safe space. Like, okay, you're interested in girls, I'm interested in girls, let's go, disco. And I don't even think that we had that much of an emotional connection or energetic compatibility, but it was just because we were both attracted to each other and knew that we both liked women that we hooked up. So then I was like, maybe I'm not pansexual. Like, I'm just attracted to the female body, and it's not just energy, actually. Like, I will hook up with someone just because we have a good sexual connection or just because they're hot. Realized that, and then I identified as bisexual, but I felt like that wasn't as inclusive to the people that I was loving. So queer to me feels like the identity that I feel most at home in because it just makes space for all different kinds of people who I might want to love. And I feel like queerness informs your relationship not only to yourself and love, but also your relationships with friends, with the world, with your art. Like, the experience of queerness to me is listening to the inside of yourself for information about who you want to be in the world rather than listening outside for information of who you should be on the inside. It's been an awakening experience every single time I date a new girl or meet a new queer friend. Just expanding my queer community has been almost this transcendental fifth dimensional experience, not to get, too out there, but it's because I'm encountering humans that are so unencumbered by the laws of patriarchy, including misogyny and the male gaze, and there's so much less performance happening that all of their art, the way that they're dressing themselves, their pronouns, like the way that they want to operate in relationships is completely their own design, like carefully, intentionally crafted by what they know to be true for themselves. And I just think, I know that's so vague, but it's just like original human beings who are making space for their spirit to guide them in all matters of life. So I wanted to start off with that because it is such a continuum, this process of discovering whatever your desires are and what your identity is, and you don't need to put a label on yourself right away at all. There is a comfort that comes from understanding your sexuality in broad terminology, but questioning is still part of LGBTQ, and you can be in that phase for as long as you need, and you never need to label it if that overwhelms you as well. I also didn't feel like there was such a big need to come out to anyone, especially my family. The first time I was having sex with a girl, in sophomore year of high school, my sister walked in on me, and that was how I came out essentially, because she walked in on me and my girlfriend rolling around on my rug underneath my blanket. She's like, "Hey, do you wanna..." Opening the door, she closes it, backs out, and then like 4 hours later she was like, "Were you having sex with her?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Oh, okay." And that was it. And then this past holiday season, since I'm seeing a girl right now, I told my sisters, "Hey, just so you know, I'm queer, and if you have any questions about it, I'm happy to answer it, but I just wanted to let you know that I like girls." And that was me coming out again, but it was just so casual, and they were like, "Oh, cool." And I don't feel a need to come out to my religious, traditional Venezuelan extended family. I am relatively far removed from my family. I see them maybe 3 times a year, and they're not a big part of my life and my community. And until I'm bringing maybe my wife home to them, I don't feel the need to share that information, because I don't think it'll benefit our relationship. I don't think it'll add to our relationship. I don't feel like I'm hiding myself, maybe a little bit, but for other reasons around them. So it's fine. And I just think that there can be space with that. Like, it's your own information to do what you want with it, however you want to express yourself. That's the reason why it's so exciting and also so scary, is because we're making up all these rules on our own. There is still a lot of room for representation and more stories and media around the queer experience that isn't, I don't know, stereotypical or fetishized. I've been stumbling around in the dark with my identity and just piecing it together, and that's a journey that we all have to go on. And it can be really easy to invalidate yourself or your experiences. Like when I was first having crushes on girls, I told my sister that I check girls out. I'm like, "I kind of look at girls' butts sometimes. Is that weird?" And she was like, "Oh no, we all do that. You're just comparing your body to theirs. It's not anything weird." And I think she was trying to comfort me, but in my head I was like, "No, I'm not comparing myself to them. I think I just like them and I want to touch them." Of course, obviously I found out I was gay. There are so many different archetypes of what a lesbian or a bisexual or a dyke or a tomboy or a femme look like that it was kind of overwhelming. I couldn't even imagine myself in any of those categories specifically. This was in the 2010s, where like if you liked girls, you were seen as a dyke. That was the only way to like girls with my limited information that I had. And I was like, but I don't want to really dress like a guy all the time. I just like girls. I didn't realize that you could be a femme presenting person also dating a femme person. And that was something that I struggled with for a while, that I thought that my sexual preference affected my own gender identity, even though those things are completely different. I got over that eventually. And then the next reason that I started to question my genuine desire to be with women is because I have an innate fear of men. I thought, oh, the only reason that I want to be with women is because I'm so afraid of men. First of all, that is okay. If you have anxiety every time you're in a room with a man, but when you're with a woman, you feel your nervous system completely calm and at ease, you're probably going to date a woman, and it's probably going to be beautiful because you feel safe, and that should be the foundation of every relationship. I, in some weird spiritual masochistic way, was like, oh, I'm just avoiding healing my masculine wounds by hooking up with women, and I need to face those eventually, so I should stop distracting myself with women. One does not have to cancel the other out. I learned over time that a lot of queer people that I knew also had trauma around men and happened to be lesbian or gay or date women. Causation doesn't equal effect. Just because a lot of lesbians I knew also had trauma with men doesn't mean that's the only reason that they were lesbian. And actually, all of the women that I know have some sort of story, history, or, you know, potential trauma with men, and they're straight and queer and all over the board. And so I had to move through that one, and I'm finally at a place in my life where I'm like, no, I am queer. This is something that is natural and pure within me. This is something beautiful. I have been in back-to-back relationships for all of my young adult life. The past 2 have been open relationships where I had space to continue hooking up with women. Exploring my sexuality was what the words I would always use. Like, I still want to explore my sexuality. I'm still curious about being with women, and I always felt sort of invalid because I was in relationships with men. But if you're queer you're queer. It doesn't matter who you're with, something LGBTQ is happening. At the end of my last relationship, I just realized, why do I keep saying I want to explore my sexuality? Like, I actually think that I know my sexuality, and I think I just need to give myself the space to really step into it and not be constantly like dipping my toes into these, you know, fun erotic situations with women when I want more than that. I do want to date a woman. I do want deeper emotional connections, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to end up with a man. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I'm giving myself full time and space to pretty much exclusively be with women as my priority, because when I think about dating a woman, I don't need or foresee the desire for the inclusion of a man in that the way that I do with a man, always wanting to have the space to hook up with women. It's really interesting. Also, when I think about my future, it's really hard to see my future unfolding with a man. Like, the vision of me with a husband and kids feels so suffocating and unclear, but when I think about that same future with a woman, it feels literally euphoric. And also, in a lot of my long-term relationships, I would be looking up, am I lesbian? How to know if I'm lesbian? And I feel like this is something that a lot of us go through, and I'm just giving myself space to figure it out, and it feels so good. And I'm not just exploring my sexuality. I mean, I am, but I'm embodying it, and I'm in it, and I know who I am and what I desire. And I mean, above all things, I just want to be single right now, but that is sort of like an underlying theme as well. And I'm so happy, and in a lot of ways more confident in myself than I ever have been because of this. I hear this from people all the time, like, oh, I wish I liked girls, then my life would be so much easier, or I wish I could just be gay, you know, I wouldn't have to deal with all these issues. And you know, there are some aspects of that that are true. Like, my queer relationships have generally been more empathetic. There's like so much more ease in the way that we operate. There's like less fear involved. And I think that's because men are a genuine threat to women's safety in the world. But just because you're dating a woman doesn't mean that you're not going to have to face your own bullshit. Your attachment styles aren't going to come up. Someone might not cheat. Someone might not be a fuckboy. It's all still on the table. We are all glorious, imperfect beings, and all of that stuff still comes up. So I don't know. I definitely kind of projected this beautiful fantasy onto queer relationships, but as I've dated women, I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, we're just humans. It's literally just different anatomy in a lot of senses, slightly different alchemy, but we all have our own little traumas and versions of love that we've internalized that might not be compatible, and avoidance and all the things. So I think that helps to go into a queer relationship with a bit more groundedness. I'm entering into a partnership where there will be challenges. I will have to face aspects of myself I may not like. I'm going to learn a lot about myself and love through this other person, and not going into a queer relationship thinking that, oh, it's just gonna be easy because they're the same anatomy as me. And also, women loving women's sex isn't all just soft and tender. I've heard that from some friends who like think about being with a woman. They're like, oh yeah, I could be with a woman, but it was just too soft for me. It seems like it would just be too tender and soft. Like, I need a little bit more roughness. And I'm like, girl, that dynamic is definitely present, and just because it's a girl doesn't mean that she can't be rough, it can't be raunchy, it can't be erotic as fuck, there can't be a penis in there. That was another stigma that maybe I also had at one point, was that it's just lovemaking, it's just tender, it's not fucking, but it can be that if you want it to be. I guess I'm just kind of deconstructing all the random narratives that I've had in my head throughout the past few years about my sexuality, but I also thought that there had to be a top or a bottom. But once again, that is just something that this gender binary has instilled in me, that there always has to be a masculine and a feminine role, and there doesn't have to be. And I want to apologize even right now if I misspeak in any way, because I can only speak from my experience and my scope of understanding, and there are so many things that I'm still ignorant about, but this is one of them. I always felt really intimidated by having to figure out if I was a top or a bottom, or what role I was supposed to take. And then as I actually started dating, I realized like, oh, we're both gonna pleasure each other. There might be someone who's a bit more forward and dominant initially, but I'm also going to give them pleasure. Maybe there's someone who's excited to wear the strap on and doesn't want the strap on to be used on them. There's that, but we're both pleasuring each other. And I didn't realize that it was like that. I just thought like one person fucks the other person because that's what happens in straight relationships. That was an awakening in itself as well, that sex looks so different and sex is so many more things than just penetration. When you're having sex with a girl, there isn't the same kind of penetration. So when is the sex happening? Is it when you're eating each other out? Is it when you're fingering each other? You know, is it only if there's a dildo involved? No, it's literally all of it. It's literally just sharing pleasure with someone else, and it makes every single moment of it feel a lot more just present and exciting because you're like being in the moment to moment exploration of pleasure. But I wanted to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video just in time for Valentine's Day, which is Lelo. They make high quality sex toys. They're all about empowering female sexual pleasure, and this is the Enigma Wave. This is a glorious toy. It has 8 different pleasure settings. This vibrates, it also moves up and down, and this has some sonic wave features that feel like a sucking experience, and you can use them both together or one at a time separately. I personally really love G-spot stimulation. I really like using this and inviting toys with a partner, especially around Valentine's Day. It can be really fun to shop for sex toys with a partner or bring one home and be like, hey, I would love for you to use this on me. But I love this toy because it has extra soft premium silicone that feels warm to the touch and is waterproof, so safe for shower play. And the battery life is so amazing. You can charge this for like 10 minutes and have a whole experience with it. You can increase and decrease the intensity of the vibration and the waves. And I just really trust Lelo. It's so important to be putting high quality toys into your body, and I really trust Lelo for that. So if you would like to check them out and see some substantial discounts, you can use my code HITOMI10. It'll be linked right down below, and find a new toy, a new little pleasure portal for you or you and a partner. Maybe this will help you to invite more orgasms, invite more pleasure into your life. I have really brushed up on my sexual literature this past month, and I'm going to share 3 books that I have read. First one is Come As You Are. The second one is Pussy, a Reclamation. The third one is Polysecure, kind of in its own realm, but they all interact with each other. I learned so much. I feel like I'm engorged with knowledge and empowerment from reading these texts, and Come As You Are was definitely much more scientific, a lot more field research, which I really appreciate. And something I'm still sitting with from this book is how vulvas have been compared to penises, deemed to be functioning improperly because they don't work the same way. For example, if someone with a penis sees something sexual, they get excited, they get a boner, they're ready to go. If someone with a vulva sees something sexual, it's an invitation, and they don't get immediately aroused and wet, there's something wrong with them. Meanwhile, these are 2 different systems entirely. There's responsive and spontaneous desire at play, and there's also something called arousal non-concordance, where you might be extremely horny in your desire, in your lust, and your body just isn't producing lubrication yet. Somatically, there can be reasons for your body to have a few more breaks up before it fully lets go. The way to meet this, create better context for you to actually be fully available for pleasure in your body, and it's not just about increasing whatever the sexual stimulation is, but decreasing whatever might be preventing you from surrendering to that excitement. I really appreciated that one. And the book Pussy, a little bit more spiritual, definitely a lot more woo-woo. I really like the practices also described in this book, and it was very much about embodying your sensuality and moving through the world in a flirtation with life, which has been like my practice for the past year or so, just genuinely being so open, so curious. For every moment you're just delighted by what sensation might greet you, what the wind might feel like, what conversation you might have with a stranger, and you're just being curious and you're just tuning in like, oh, how does this feel? Do I like that? How is the world going to delight me today? And it feels so innocent and maiden-like. And I have been using my sensuality as a practice even more lately. And it's not even, you know, it might look performative on camera because I'm kind of amping it up, like, oh, all these things, but it literally just feels like breathing deeply into my senses. It makes me feel way more available for pleasure as well, because I'm not running away from whatever my somatic internal experience is, but throughout the whole day I'm checking in, like, how does my body feel? How is my nervous system? How can I bring more ease and softness into this moment? And having orgasms regularly. I have been kind of in a asexual moment. I'm not too motivated by sex at all in my life right now. I'm more motivated by other forms of deep intimacy that are non-sexual. That feels way more exciting to me. And I'm just gonna go on a little tangent because I have at this point had a decent amount of sex in my life. I've had casual sex, I've had deeply intimate romantic sex with long-term partners. At the end of the day, what I'm realizing is most fulfilling about them is the things that I've learned about life through other people, the things I've learned about myself through other people, and the spiritual nudity of it all, the unmasking, the moments of bravery where I say what feels true even if it's scary, the moments where I bare my heart out to someone. That feels so expansive and fulfilling, more so than just an orgasm. And the orgasms have been amazing and also life-changing, but I'm realizing that more than just sex, I just appreciate deep honesty and vulnerability. I feel more motivated by that, and I feel like I don't need any of my relationships to be sexual at all in my life. Like, even romantically, I'm kind of just thinking, if the sex adds, then that's amazing, but if the sex doesn't add to the relationship, then I'm so happy just being friends. There are like so many more exciting things to do than just have sex. And I also feel that way about being adored. Like, I don't just need to be adored or fawned at by someone. Like, I don't need tons of compliments. I don't need, you know, groveling or praise. It's nice initially when you start dating someone, but kind of like, you know, I don't even need you to worship me at my feet in that way. If anything, I just want to gaze at the world together in awe. Like, that feels more exciting to me than just being adored or adoring someone else, is creating something beautiful together. I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes my sexual connections feel even more intentional because I only want to engage in them if they are adding to a container. And for a while, especially with queer sex, I would have sex with girls just because I knew that they were gay in some way. I didn't have sex with them because we had an undeniable chemistry. It was just like, oh, you also like girls, you're attractive, I'm attractive, disco. But that stopped being fulfilling for me, and I have become way better at setting boundaries. And right now it's just feeling like the most true thing for me to only act out of desire that is clawing out of me, and otherwise worship myself, be so happy to experience my own body and own pleasure and the timing and pacing of when I want to engage with others in that way. And then polysecure I haven't finished, but it makes me feel like I don't know if I could ever be in an actual polyamorous situation. I'm just so happy to be single and not have any responsibilities in that realm right now, because relationships are responsibilities, but that one was very eye-opening as well. And all in all, continuing to deepen my sexual education has empowered me so much and helps me to feel at home within my body. And the more I feel at home within my experience, then my desires and pleasure and fantasies, it helps me to connect even more deeply and be a safer space for everyone else that I get to love. And being connected with your sensuality in a very unapologetic way will help you in the dating realms. Specifically, of course, with dating femme people, you kind of have to trust your instincts and sometimes be the one to be more bold and brave and put your hand on their hand, or ask what their identity is, ask if they're queer, be a little bit more bold and flirty. And all of your day, all of these interactions can stem from that flirtation that you're having with life, the way that you're daring, the way that you're dressing up in ways that make you feel so expressive and confident and uniquely sexy. I used to use dating apps to meet girls. That was the only way I knew for sure how to tell if someone was queer, was if they chose to be there, they're looking for someone to hook up with or date. That felt so safe for me. But then you do start to build a little bit of confidence through that experience, maybe a little bit of a gaydar. If they are using lingo from the drag community, or there's little pockets of the internet that I know that gay people are in, and I can pick up on it when we're talking, when we're dancing, our little hand movements, and it's really exciting to be at that phase now and feeling confident enough to trust my instinct of like, okay, I'm pretty sure that they're hitting on me, I'm pretty sure I like them, I'm gonna hit on them back, and then see where that goes. And that's kind of all, that's just what you have to do, is you have to hit on people, flirt with them a little bit. And my little thing that I do is when I'm giving someone a compliment that I'm interested in, is I say it with a pretty monotone voice. I'm just like, I really like your hair, it suits you so well, like I've never seen someone pull that off, but you do that so well. Just maybe staring them up and down, really good eye contact, versus if I was talking to my friend, I'd be like, oh my god, I love your hair, I've never seen someone pull that off, it looks so good on you. Completely different energy. You can do the things like check the nails, check the outfit, but I feel like androgyny is so in right now. The world is actually way more queer than it ever has been, and it's only getting more and more gay, and I'm so excited about it. But if you meet one gay person, it will create a mycelium network of many other gay people, and I promise you, you will find your community. Okay, I think it's time to get into the part of the conversation that a lot of you came here for. I did make a video on women loving women, sex. I feel like I covered the basics, all the different ways you can use your fingers, your tongue, your body. Basically, you can use your body to rub against your partner's clitoris. You can use your finger in the come hither motion. You can use different fingers for different kinds of stimulation. Obviously, the most popular is the middle two. You can also do these two and just get like a different kind of action in there. You can use your thumb and use the rest of your palm to rub the clitoris as your thumb is in there. Generally, the G-spot is going to be the most sensitive and exciting to stimulate inside of the vagina. Also though, the cervix feels incredible, and there are different walls that might feel more sensitive for them. So you can even do a little bit of pleasure mapping and invite your partner to be really expressive when it feels really good. So baby, be extra loud for me when I make you feel good, and then explore the inside of their vagina. Of course, externally, we have the clitoris. I have had some partners who don't want any internal stimulation at all. So I spend extra time, go a lot more slow when, you know, worshiping the vulva, making out with the vulva, using my tongue going from the bottom to the top, spending extra time just making contact with the clitoris when I feel like they're ready to come and they want to come. It's like not breaking direct contact and stimulation. I don't want to just repeat everything from the last video, but basically you can switch up the kind of stimulation to the clitoris with your mouth. There's like licking that you can do with the point of your tongue or the flat part, and you can just go side to side, up and down, swirl it around. I feel like sucking the clitoris is one of the most pleasurable things that you can do while swirling your tongue intermittently around the clit. And it is good to switch it up, you know, try all of these different stimulation techniques with your mouth, with your tongue. But once they're moaning and you can tell that they really want to come and it's feeling good, try to stick to maybe just like whatever variation of stimulation that you're doing, and don't break contact with the clitoris. And there are so many different positions that you can eat someone out in. Obviously, there's just on the bed, lying down, but it's really nice to have your partner lying on the bed and then just go down on your knees, wrapping their legs around your back. You can do that on any type of furniture. I also think it's really hot if they're standing up and then they just wrap one leg around you. So there's just basic aspects to stimulating the vulva, but then you want to take the environment in and use the props at hand. For example, like maybe the elbows are against the window and the butt is here on the side of this couch and you're just sitting like this, and the other person is really enjoying the feast. In the shower, from behind, if there's a headboard, you know, you might want to rest against that. Face sitting is really fun, and the way to do this with the most comfort so that you're not just like putting all the weight in your knees is to really Bring your weight back to your hands and almost sit your butt on your partner's chest so that their face can really be in there going at it, but you can also just be comfortable taking a seat and still fully exposed to their face. I think that this is so hot. One of my favorite positions. Or of course you can just stick your tongue out and have them ride your face, but it really is just like environmental. Like if there's a really nice table in front of you, you lie them down on the table and you just have a feast there. Get creative with it. Pushing your partner up against the wall, stroking her up and down, fingering from behind is really hot as you whisper down their neck. Experimenting with different speeds, asking them, do you like the pace of this? Do you want me to go slower or faster? And you can finger them from behind while also rubbing their clit in the front. It's also really hot to do this when you and your partner are facing each other with your legs spread and both fingering each other, fingering them with these two fingers so that the palm of your hand is rubbing their clit while you're making out. It's really beautiful and really intimate, and you know, a wonderful moment where you can both be in pleasure together, because a lot of times it can be one person giving and the other person receiving. Overall, I feel like your erotic mind needs to be turned on, and for you to give yourself permission to be guided by your pleasure. Beyond just doing the technical things that might make someone feel good is listening, feeling, responding, being present in the moment enough to ask what feels right. Once again, asking more specific questions than just, does this feel good? Asking, do you like that pressure? Do you want 1 or 2 fingers inside of you? Do you want me to suck your clit more or less? Just like asking really specific questions to interact with your partner. And I've had people comment on some of my sex videos that everything that I like is everything that they hate, and it is just such a personal experience. And the main thing, hopefully the main takeaway from these videos, is just being curious and learning for yourself, fucking around and finding out what feels good for your body, what your partner likes, and being guided by that. Because even for me, I've had sexual experiences, the positions that I'm sharing feel so good with that specific shape or person, and then with someone else with a different build, or they have different things going on, I require different kinds of stimulation, and it would be a completely different set of positions I'd be sharing on here and raving about. So it really just is a person-to-person investigation that's really exciting. It's like making love with someone is all just pleasure mapping, is all just being curious about what turns them on, what builds the pressure. And as long as you know these basic tools of what you can use, your upper thigh, your fingers, all of them, your mouth, the different ways you can use your tongue, then it's just about interacting with your environment, with the moment, and being guided by the pleasure and what feels good. And it doesn't just have to be soft. If they like really rough fingering, it can be a little rough. You can get your whole hand in there and just be shaking their whole body. Always connecting your breath, always keeping that eye contact, just tuning into it, and also using your words to take things to the next level. Even just saying, good girl, I think that's so hot. I mean, that might feed into some weird male fantasy, but I still like being called a good girl or a bad girl, to be honest. Or you do that so well, or you can say, you look so pretty when you do that. I love the way that you do that. Talking them through it, tuning into your experience so deeply that whatever your body wants more or less of, you're setting it free. You're vocalizing it with a moan, like, yes, more there. I want another one of your fingers inside me, just vocalizing it. It feels like sex can be happening from the very beginning of the day until the end, in the way that you are asking, giving, and receiving, and just being in this open, curious dance with life and with your day. I think that with each partner, you should get new toys to be using with the partner, like shopping together, getting toys specifically for them, for your shared use. It's a really cute date moment where you can just get fun toys together. I also think just pleasuring yourself next to your partner is really fun, like both of you orgasming and pleasuring yourselves while watching each other and getting to learn about each other's bodies through that. It's beautiful. Wherever you are on this continuum, I celebrate you. Thank you for being yourself, for being representation in the world, for being a revolution by setting your expression free. And I hope that maybe something in this video comforted you or brings to more intimacy in your life. And the more intimate that we are with ourselves, the more intimate that we can be with other people, not just sexually, but spiritually and emotionally. So just know that whatever you're uncovering about yourself is really good information and is going to empower the way that you move through the world. Don't forget, if you would like 10% off Lalo, you can use my code HITOMI10 and click the link in the description box down below. Thank you so much, and I will see you in a video soon, I hope. Bye!